90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box. I am Rob Leonard, and joining me, of course, is award-winning sports writer and, yes, my brother, Tim Leonard. Brother, how are you? How are things today in Queens?
I am outstanding, brother. How about yourself? I'm feeling rested, feeling good, feeling ready to talk some sports.
I have a slight cough, brother.
All right, yeah,
it's a slight one. I hope it's nothing else.
Get yourself a COVID test.
I might have to. Who knows? Anyway, brother, I'm not sure where to start with what's going on in the world of sports. I mean, double loss in the NFL for New York teams. I'm actually going to start with something you'll be happy with, brother. Yanks, 10 in a row.
How about those Yankees?
Pretty damn good, and they seem to be. Everyone seems to be back playing form. So we'll start off with the Yankees today.
I saw a stat a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if it remains true. But for the first time all season, the Yankees did not have a single player on the 10-day injury list. So that is, first of all, it's amazing. Secondly, I don't know how long they can maintain that. Obviously, there's a couple players on the 60-day deal, like Tommy Kahnle had Tommy John surgery, and I forget there's one other player on there as well. Severino. But the Yankees are healthy, and they now look like the team everybody expected them to be, and they were when the season began, and they just jumped out of the box and started winning games left and right. But then, with all the injuries they had, there was a stretch where they went 5-15 over 20 games. Now, you have to remember, 20 games doesn't sound like a lot in a regular season. That's 1/3 of this season. So 5-15, that was a potentially disastrous stretch for them, but they responded with 10 wins in a row, and then they finally lost yesterday to the Red Sox. It's their only loss of the season against the Boston Red Sox. So 9-1 against Boston this season. It's barely a rivalry anymore, brother. You know, the Yankees had beaten the Red Sox 12 in a row.
Tim, that's a Yankee fan thing to bust up on the Red Sox. It's not a rivalry anymore. It's like when you compare the number of World Series between the Yankees and the Red Sox. It's not a rivalry there.
That's true too. Good point,
I know
brother.
that, but call it that's a little arrogant of you as a Yankee fan.
I'm just stating facts. I mean, it was 12 in a row. The Yankees equaled the team record with 12 wins in a row against the Red Sox. It dated back to the 2019 season. I know the Red Sox are rebuilding. They still have an astronomical salary. Their number, they just got the number below the luxury tax purposes, and look what happened when they traded Mookie Betts and they got rid of him. They got below the luxury tax, but they're still spending about $180 million to finish in last place. So, I take my shots at the Red Sox when I can, just like they do the same when they can against the Yankees. So,
of course, brother. Damn you, damn you, Yankee fans. Damn you, Red Sox fans.
I'm not going to apologize for that. Are you kidding me?
Of course not. Of course not. I mean, that'd be if you were writing an article, a column today. No apologies to Red Sox fans.
No, yeah, absolutely. That would be the headline. No apologies. No apologies, Red Sox fans.
Yeah, so the Yankees have made the playoffs.
They did clinch a playoff spot over the weekend.
Yep.
That is correct, brother.
Now, how many teams are in the playoffs this year? 120?
8. Yeah, well, it's close to that. It's 120, but the Mets still won't be in it.
Hey, don't say that yet. It's not over yet. Just because...
You know what, brother? It's pretty much over. You remember, what was it? Was it last year or 2 years ago? I forget. But do you remember when we kept saying that the Mets have to, had to get 10 games above 500 to get the wild card? I think it was maybe it was 2 years.
Yeah, we were talking about how they had to get over 10 games. Yes,
right, and they never did. Well, basically, that's where the Mets are now, because they would have to get to 500 to make the playoffs. And it's not like it's a mandatory thing that you have to be a 500 team, but the way the standings are in the National League, it's just that's how it's shaking out. The Phillies are 27-26. The Reds are 27-27. The Brewers are 26-26. So there's a lot of teams, and the San Francisco Giants, incredibly, are 26-26. So those are all of the teams that are battling for those last playoff spots, or maybe the last playoff spot. And the Mets are 24 and 29. I mean, the Mets are far behind those teams.
Yeah, I know.
So that's what the Mets are dealing with. They have a lot of traffic in front of them, and they haven't played especially well all season. I mean, they got embarrassed a couple games by the Atlanta Braves over the weekend, and those were games that they needed to win. And they lost first game of the series. They lost 15-2, and then they lost yesterday 7-0. I mean, you can't have that. You can't have such atrocious pitching when you have games you desperately need to win.
Well, atrocious pitching and the Mets go hand in hand right now. I often think of what might have happened if they had some, even like a second or third pitcher. It just bothers me tremendously that, I mean, we're going to have a new owner. We're going to have a guy that might spend $1 or $2 or $5. We hope. A lot of people. Hell, let me get this going, brother.
Go ahead.
A lot of people this week on different places, platforms, we're talking about, okay, Steve Cohen, he's got the team now. He's going to spend every amount of his $1 billion to get the Mets into a good team next year, which we know is not going to happen.
There is some possibility there, but Met fans are typically extremists and kind of crazy. They think that Steve Cohen is coming in and that he's going to spend $400 million on a payroll.
No, he's not.
Absolutely insane.
No, he's not.
Steve Cohen didn't buy the Mets to bully every other Major League Baseball team into submission with his wealth. He bought the Mets to make money. So these delusions of grandeur that Met fans have of, well, we're going to sign George Springer and we're going to sign every pitcher we can, and we're going to sign the top 7 free agents, and it doesn't matter how much they cost because Steve Cohen's got more money than God. Well, no, that's not what's going to happen. It's not reality. And Met fans seem to forget that the luxury tax, the way it exists, that after a certain point, if you go over it by a certain point, every dollar you spend is taxed at a 50% rate. So if you had a payroll of $400 million, you'd actually be paying more than $500 million because you'd have to pay another $100+ million in tax.
Right, but that's not $400 million is a bad number.
It's a ludicrous number. But I'm just putting out that's what Met fans think is going to happen.
I wish personally that baseball didn't have a salary cap the way they do. I think it takes away. Certain teams are never going to do anything, and they don't even try. So. If it'd be nice actually if it was sort of like British football, where okay, you're in this league, okay, next year maybe you can be in the lower league, because you're not spending and you're not winning and stuff. So I know that would never happen in America, but it would be nice if they had that.
But well, I can agree with some of the points that you made, and I will have to disagree with some of the points you made, because there are certain teams in the English Premier League that will never win a title. And they play at the highest level. They play in the Premier League, but they will never win a title because financially they aren't capable of keeping up with the wallets at Manchester City and Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester United. They just can't. Chelsea this summer spent more in player acquisitions than a lot of teams use for their entire salaries for their team.
Right.
And that was just what they spent to acquire a few players. So, you're not talking about a level playing field. And that gets boring for fans. Because if I'm a fan of a team, let's say the Wolverhampton Wanderers, aka Wolves, their goal when the season begins is to maybe finish 6th. And that's not really good for the sport, because if your only hope when a season starts is, well, let's hope we can finish in the top half of the standings. They call it the table, but also standings.
Right.
I mean, what does that give you to root for? If you can't dream about your team winning a title, what good is it? And that's the problem that I have with the Premier League. Whereas I'm kind of glad they have a luxury tax, because I just wish, like you said, some teams don't want to spend, and they make it obvious that they don't want to spend, and that is the problem, because I think if you're going to have a tax, a ceiling, I think you also need to have a floor. And if a team doesn't want to spend the minimum to compete, well, you know what? Then find another team.
Yeah, but you know what? Then they can just dump, okay, we're going to give, so-and-so an extra $10 million or something, and then they keep out of the basement, so to speak. So
that's fine. And at least they're spending it.
But, does that person deserve it? That's the question. So
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just,
if the owner is just taking that luxury tax money and putting it in his pocket, what good is that?
Well, some are, and we know that.
We know a lot. Several of them are.
So
what's the point?
The Mets basically are out of it. I mean, I guess they'd have to win every game this week for it to work.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, at 24 and 29, if they go 6-1, then they finish the season at 30 and 30. So they really would need to win all 7 games, because 30 and 30 is no guarantee of a playoff spot. So
no, but it's better than what they are now. So
but I mean, they really 31 and 29 could possibly be a big difference at the end of the season, because, like I said, with all of these teams that are hovering around 5, there's 4 teams that are either at 500 or a game above it. That it's a log jam, and that's what would be a big problem for the Mets, would be to get through that log jam. And I mean, right now the real biggest shocker, the Miami Marlins. They're 28 and 25. They're in second place in the National League East. They are a likely playoff team at this point.
Oh,
I don't want to say definite, because they still have 7 more games.
Derek Jeter proving his weight, proving himself, I should say.
Yeah, but this is a team. Remember, early in the season, massive COVID, postponements. They had to make up a ton of games, play a bunch of doubleheaders, and yet somehow they've put together a 28 and 25 record. And their young pitchers, like I said last year, watch out for their young pitchers, and their young pitchers are starting to get it done. They have a kid, bro. I'll give you a name for the future, because he's doing it already. But probably New Yorkers don't know who this guy is. Sixto Sanchez, who is a pitcher. He's one of many pitchers who has been called the next Pedro. Except this guy is the next Pedro. He has been dominant. He is a guy that the Marlins got from the Phillies in the JT Realmuto trade. When the Marlins traded him to the Phillies, he was the big return. This kid throws 100. The ball moves all over the place. He's another guy who's 6 foot maybe and weighs about 170 pounds. But the kid is electric, and he's already had a couple of games, a couple of starts, and he's made 5 major league starts. But he's already had a couple of them with double-digit strikeouts. Just absolutely an electric arm. And for Yankee fans who have seen what Davy Garcia can do, yesterday not included, but he's even more electric than Davy Garcia. So I can't wait till this kid actually has a full season and gets it done. But any fantasy league people, if you need a young pitcher, Sixto Sanchez. So, but that's the Marlins. I mean, the Cardinals right now 2 games over 500. And the Padres are another team that to me has been a surprise. I mean, at 34 and 20, they obviously have spent some money in the last couple of years with Manny Machado and Eric Hosmer, but this is another team with the young players. Fernando Tatis Jr. being the obvious, he's an MVP candidate, and he's only 21, 22 years old. But this is a team that is growing, as I said, and I was telling you about these guys 2 or 3 years ago, because they have a great minor league system still. And this is a team for the future, but their future also is now. So that's those are the teams in the National League. And again, the Mets are going to have to do a lot of winning and have to do it all this week, because right now they are a very unlikely team for the playoffs.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is they almost were. So that's the weird part about the Mets this year. And they didn't really have a good season. Bad pitching and just I don't know if I want to say bad attitude. Maybe that's the wrong term, but there was something definitely missing about this season. I mean, it's not over yet, but it just seems that way.
Well, from my standpoint, brother, as a non-Mets fan, the thing that was missing this year was pitching.
Well, I know that.
The rotation has been atrocious. We talked about that before. The bullpen hasn't even been that bad. And I know Met fans love to get all over Edwin Diaz, but he really hasn't been horrible this season. And the bullpen, the bullpen was bad yesterday. I know that for a fact. But the Mets bullpen really hasn't been like it was last year. Last year was atrocious, but this year it's been okay. But it hasn't. It's certainly with the extra work that they've been asked to do because so many of their starters have only gone 4 innings or less, and some a lot less. That's going to wear on a bullpen when you have guys having to pitch multiple times, or multiple days in a row, or you have to use your bullpen for 5-6 innings each game. That's going to wear down a bullpen. So, that's and Pete Alonso hasn't had a good season. I think he'll be the first one to tell you that, even though in recent weeks he's been better. But it certainly hasn't been the kind of season that I'm sure he would have wanted after his Rookie of the Year campaign last year. I mean, he's got 12 home runs and 27 RBIs.
Right.
27 RBIs in 50 games. That's not cutting it for Pete Alonso.
No, I think also, he started to come around the second half of the season, I think.
Yeah, he did. His first half was atrocious.
So maybe, maybe he's bad in the beginning. Maybe he's like a Bernie Williams, he doesn't start out well, but finishes off very well. So, I think maybe that's the way to look at it. One thing I forgot to mention, or I just found out, I should say, last week after our show, we were talking about Steve Cohen and him buying the Mets, and supposedly A-Rod's team, the one who wanted to buy the Mets, have said, well, if you guys don't take Steve Cohen, we'll be glad to take it, that type of thing. But one thing that has not been...
Yeah, but you found that out from me.
Well, one thing that the Mets did not include in the sale, and I didn't realize this, was SNY. SNY is actually owned by 3 people. It's
Amigos.
The Wilpons. Amigos, yeah. It's Comcast, Spectrum, which is, Time Warner Cable formerly, and of course, the Wilpons. So whether... I don't know how long the Mets still have with SNY. And the only reason I bring this up, Tim, is this is a major amount of money every year for the team. The Yes Network makes a lot of money. Now, the Yankees don't own the Yes Network outright like they used to. They've sold it off in pieces to make even more money. But SNY has to be part of your money-making plan to get players and stuff like that. It's got to be not exactly part of the Mets, but it has to be like extended off the Mets so that there's money coming in.
Right.
So for right now, the Mets are still with the original 3 people for SNY. So whether, probably SNY is worth $1 billion at least, maybe even a little more.
It might be worth double that, brother, because I remember reading something that Steve Cohen had offered $4 billion for the Mets and SNY. And that was the last I heard of SNY being part of the negotiations.
Yeah, well, one thing that can happen, and this is something that happened with the Yankees when their contract expired years ago with MSG. They went and started the Yes Network, and Cohen can do the same thing. He can. I don't know how many more years the Mets have with SNY, because obviously you have to sign a contract, to have the rights. But Cohen can let the rights go by, let's say in 3 or 4 years or whenever it expires, and then say, well, I'm going to start my own network. And that's a real possibility. I mean, and he could go over to the Dolans at MSG and said, hey, let's get a channel going over here. And I'm sure Jimmy Dolan would love that. He would love to be part of that.
Of course he would.
So that is something, for the Mets. It's not super important, but it's about money. And this whole deal is about money. So,
the network allows teams to kind of avoid taxes as far as Major League Baseball goes, and income from that.
Right. You're right.
It's all random numbers, and it's all about accountants moving numbers around so that the team doesn't get hurt in various ways. But as far as the network goes. Yeah, either Steve Cohen is going to buy SNY at a later date,
right,
or he's going to start his own network, because to really make money off of a baseball team, like you said, you need the network. It's become a vital part of owning a team. If you own a team but don't own a network, then you're certainly not even coming close to maximizing your profits.
Right.
It's just a fact. I don't want to belabor this because it's let's let them buy the team first, and then we can talk about
that. I mean, an example could be, let's say you're going for a free agent, and you offer him, $200 million, we'll say, just flat rate like that. But you really want to pay him $300. So what you do is SNY comes in and says, "Hey, we'll give you a television contract to have your own TV show. You want to play guitar all day or get your to read poetry, you can do that too on your show."
But that hasn't been something that has happened. So it could. It's something that certainly is possible, but teams haven't flouted it to that extent yet.
No, you're right.
It's not like Bernie Williams got his own show on the Yes Network and said, "All right, Bernie, go ahead and play guitar for an hour and do whatever you want, and we'll give you an extra $20 million." I mean, it hasn't gotten there yet. But
Bernie can play, so
Bernie can play. But in terms of what teams can take in as revenue, basically it's the TV contract can be written for any number you want, from $1 to $500 million. It does.
Right,
it's so again, it's all accounting games, and that's why I don't really want to belabor this, but expect Steve Cohen to be in control of either SNY or his own network for the Mets, a new network. Which, if that happens, SNY is done.
Definitely.
It would behoove the owners, the current owners, to make some sort of deal with Steve Cohen, probably in the near future.
Definitely. Okay, bro, let's go to the NFL. What a bad day to be a New York fan watching football on Sunday. It was just, I don't know. What team do you want to start with first, brother? Giants.
Well, let me just throw this at you, brother. I saw this on Twitter, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Neil Best from Newsday, who I'm sure you know, a longtime Newsday writer. He tweeted that for younger people, and younger people would be the people who attend National Community College and a lot of that age bracket, who will say you'll say like, well, how bad could football have been in New York in the 70s and the 80s? And you try to explain it because it was really bad back then.
It was.
But basically what we're watching now, this is what it was. This is how bad football was in the late 70s and early 80s, like before the LT days with the Giants. This is how bad it was.
Well, the Jets at least had Namath for the first 5 years, even though he's injured a couple of times. At least they had Namath the first half of the 70s.
Yeah, so they had a star. Like the Giants have Saquon Barkley. He's a star, but he's on a bad team. So, But this is what it was like when the Giants were going, 3-11 or 2-12, and where you don't see a win on the schedule. But this is where we are right now. The Jets are quite possibly the worst team in the league. And I was looking at the Jets schedule when I was putting together notes for the show. I don't see a win on their schedule. I don't look
not
at
even by mistake.
By mistake is the only way. But when you look at a schedule, any fan will tell you. You'll look at a schedule and you'll say, all right, well, win here, loss, win, loss. And you can go down the schedule and pretty much look at it and say, all right, this is what I'm expecting. And then you wind up with, all right, well, hey, you know what? The Jets will go, 6-10 or 9-7, whatever record you come up with. I was going down the schedule. I don't see a win. Not even the Dolphins. The Dolphins are a better team than they were last year. Pretty much a much better team.
Right.
The Jets, the only possible wins that I see on this schedule is maybe a Thursday night game on October 1st against the Denver Broncos. And that's only because the Broncos quarterback hurt his shoulder yesterday. So he's probably done for a while, and that game's in a couple of weeks. Or maybe the Cleveland Browns on December 27th. Because who knows what kind of dysfunctional mess the Browns will be by then. But other than those two, and those two are maybes, I don't see. I can see the Dolphins sweeping the Jets. Maybe they get a win against the Dolphins. But that's it. It's three maybes. This is quite possibly an 0-16 team that we're watching. That's how bad they are. And yesterday, you would think, after as poor as they were against the Buffalo Bills in the opener, you would think that and after Gase, Adam Gase, the head coach, gets the dreaded vote of confidence from the owner, Christopher Johnson, you would think the Jets would come out and be they couldn't wait to play and want to prove to everybody how wrong they are and we're better than what you say. And instead, what happens? San Francisco 49ers running back Raheem Mostert takes the first play of the game, goes around the right side and goes up the field 80 yards for a touchdown. Are you kidding? I mean, that's just embarrassing. And it just got worse. I mean, as bad as they were against the Buffalo Bills, down 21-0 at halftime, I mean, this one was 21-3 at halftime. And the 49ers wind up losing a lot of key players. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo went out with a sprained ankle. Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas, they're two pass rushers on defense. They went out with knee injuries. Mostert left the game later in the game with a knee injury. And the 49ers were complaining about the turf at MetLife Stadium. I'll get into that a little bit in a couple minutes. But the Jets still got crushed. The 49ers are losing star players left and right, and the Jets were never in this game. Not for a single second. So I don't get it. I don't get the vote of confidence from Christopher Johnson.
Well, how do you give a vote of confidence on the first week? At least wait until the second week.
Well, because it would just be a bigger joke. It would just be a bigger joke if he gave him a vote of confidence this week. What can he point at from this game and say, well, I liked what we did here, or this was encouraging? The Jets' only touchdown of the game came with about a minute and a half left in the game. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, well, my problem with the Jets right now is just that are we going to have a vote of confidence every week, and how long does Adam Gase last? I mean, the NFL doesn't like to fire coaches during the season. You have to pay them. That's one of the reasons. And the Jets, doesn't matter at this point. I mean, if they were to fire him right now, it's too early to say it, but I can see a lot of people thinking at least. And I can see Adam Gase waking up every day and expecting a phone call that, come into the office. We want to talk to you.
But will Joe Douglas make that call? Because remember, they're friends. Gase was the guy who basically hired Joe Douglas.
Yeah, I know. But, at the same time, if you're not winning, you got to start answering questions fast. And the Jets, the second week, they're not going to win next week. So... 0-3, 0-6. I mean, Rich Kotite is going to look better after this, They're going to say, Rich Kotite, and they kept him for 2 years. So, but that was the old days with Mr. Hess. So, I don't think, if anything, they fire him during the season. I could be wrong, but if you're 0-8 or 1-7, firing a coach doesn't really matter because you're not going to come back. But if you're going to do it, you do it around there. You do it when maybe you can save the season.
Well, they won't be able to save the season. I can tell you that. But it's a matter of either getting a look at somebody who could be the potential next coach,
right?
Because I mean, there's nobody you can bring in. It's not like there's a guy sitting at home watching on TV. Give me a name. I mean, Bill Parcells is obviously way too old to do this now, so it's not going to be Bill Parcells coming in to save the day. There isn't that magic fix in terms of coaches sitting around looking for jobs. But here, I'll read the schedule to you. Next week, Colts, loss. Week after, Broncos, maybe, I don't know, maybe. Week after that, Cardinals. Kyler Murray is going to destroy this defense. Week after that, Chargers. Chargers have a really good defense. After that, the Bills. They already lost to the Bills, embarrassing. Then the Chiefs. That's good. It's going to be humiliating. Patriots the week after that. The Patriots aren't terrible without Tom Brady. They're still pretty good. Week after that, the Dolphins. Then a bye week, and then again against the Dolphins. So the first game, Dolphins is away. The next one is home. So wow. I don't know. Maybe you split those two. I don't know. But then Raiders, not a great team, but certainly not a bad team. Seahawks, Russell Wilson just threw five touchdowns against the Patriots yesterday. Pretty good team. LA Rams, then the Cleveland Browns, and then they finish the season with the Patriots. Is there one game in there where you can say to yourself, yeah, they're going to win that game?
No.
Exactly. That's the problem. This team has the potential to be an historic embarrassment. And if that, I mean, even if they go 1-15 or 2-14, I mean, it's not like it's better. It's not like it's that much better than 0-16. This is a really, really bad team.
Well, what's going on with Sam Darnold, brother? What is he not doing that he should be doing, or what is he not being? What is he not being allowed to do? Maybe that's a better question.
What he's not being allowed to do is play with good players. That's what he's not being allowed to do. I refuse to put any of this on Darnold, because look, here's a stat I want to throw at you, brother, and I'm going to give credit again. Rich Cimini from ESPN.com, not a favorite of mine, but it's a good stat. He posted a snap count for Jets players, the skill players on offense, on the website today. All right. Obviously, Sam Darnold is going to be on for every play. That's the quarterback's job. He's there. And the linemen, same thing goes for them unless one of them gets hurt. But as far as skill players go, wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, obviously they'll get shuffled in and out depending on what the play call is. So which skill player had the most snaps for the Jets on Sunday? Wide receiver Chris Hogan.
Wow.
Now you're probably saying, who? Who's that?
That's who, what, or where?
He's the guy who has the distinction of having played now for every team in the AFC East. All right. He's a Jersey kid, so good for him. He's playing for the Jets. But he was a guy who the Jets signed him off the waiver wire after camp had started. Chris Hogan should be an afterthought. And instead, he is on the field for the most snaps of any skill player, which tells you how abysmal the Jets offense is right now. And, this is why I can't kill Sam Darnold. Because what does he have? What does he have around him? Le'Veon Bell went out last week. He's out for who knows how many weeks with the hamstring injury. All right. The Sims kid who they drafted hasn't played a down yet. He was supposed to be their big hope at wide receiver. So he has nothing. You can't expect a third-year guy who in his first 2 years missed almost half the games because of injuries and mono. You can't expect him to be Superman and lead an offense that has no weapons. Frank Gore, who I'm pretty sure is like 57 years old, is now the Jets' lead running back because Bell is out.
Right.
So what do you and I mean, I feel bad about Sam Darnold because I like Sam Darnold. I think he's a good player. But when you're looking at what can he do? I can't blame him. He was 21 for 32 for 179 yards and a touchdown yesterday. And obviously, like I said, the touchdown very late in the game. But no interceptions, sacked once. So, the line is doing a decent job.
Yeah, but those are like 5-yard passes. So
right. But that's exactly it. 21 for 32 for 179.
Let's go down the field a little more. And if you can't trust it, then, get someone.
But his receivers are not good enough to go downfield and to get the kind of separation you need. For that, you need either a guy who is a great route runner, or you need a guy who's a burner with speed. And the Jets don't have those guys. Chris Hogan is not that guy.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah. So, oh man. Here's one thing, bro. One thing I will say that I'll put one positive out there. Your boy, brother, Mekhi Becton.
Yeah.
He's been a beast. He's turned into a good pick. And I know you know this name, Brian Baldinger.
Love Brian Baldinger.
Massapequa guy. Played in the league. I saw a video he did where he called Mekhi Becton a young Walter Jones. Praise doesn't get much bigger than that, brother. Walter Jones was an elite left tackle, Hall of Fame. He was a guy who he moved people. And you didn't get to the quarterback against Walter Jones. You just called it a day. So Mekhi Becton is already turning into that kind of player, which is nice. It's a good building block. But the Jets need so many more like him, and it's going to take them a while to get him. The other thing I wanted to mention about the Jets, if they do wind up with the number 1 pick, Do you
be talking about that this early, brother?
Well, but if they do you go in for Trevor Lawrence? Because he is regarded as a generational type talent. And if you have you have Sam Darnold, but obviously it's not working with Sam Darnold. But do you go for Trevor Lawrence and upgrade the quarterback position, or do you stay with Darnold, who is still, I think, will be a very good NFL quarterback, but do you go to Lawrence and maybe trade Darnold and see what you can get for him?
Well, Darnold might be a good quarterback. I don't think it's going to be with the Jets. I think you trade him if he still has some sort of glimmer in his eye that another team might want him. I think you trade him and you
another
start
team
to
would
rebuild.
Definitely want him. But it's a matter of how much would they pay for him versus how much would they pay if you want to trade the number one pick and Trevor Lawrence.
Well, I don't think you trade the number one pick to get Sam Darnold.
No. I'm talking about if the Jets have the number one pick and they decide they want to keep Sam Darnold, then you would get more for the pick for Trevor Lawrence than you would for Sam. Sam Darnold would you'd be lucky to get a second round pick back. For Trevor Lawrence, you could get a team to give you at least 2 number ones plus to have the chance to draft him.
Right.
But Trevor Lawrence, most people think he's a future Hall of Famer.
Well, it's tough to predict that stuff.
I'm not saying, obviously none of this stuff is guaranteed, but like I said, he is already regarded as a generational talent.
Well,
he's a very good quarterback.
Let's not jump on the bandwagon too soon, brother.
Well, but I'm saying these are things the Jets are going to have to think about.
Okay, you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. You're listening to From the Press Box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We become a podcast later on. Go to Spreaker.com, among other places. And don't forget, we're part of the WHPC Sports Talk family. Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesdays, 10 p.m. to midnight. And, of course, every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. And let's talk about the Giants, brother. The Giants.
The poor Giants.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the Giants. Because what?
Do too.
I'll tell you what. They put in a decent effort yesterday. I don't even want to crush them because right now, or maybe a little while ago, Saquon Barkley is undergoing an MRI that likely will tell him that he has a torn ACL and that his season is over. So, and that he's looking at a year of rehab, and likely will be ready for next season, but he's going to have to do it in maybe a little bit less time than is optimal for somebody recovering from that injury and surgery. But the Giants, again, what had to be looked at as a winnable game yesterday against the Chicago Bears, but they wind up on the wrong side of a 17-13 score. Right. That said, the Giants at least fought back, unlike the Jets, and were in it. And the last play of the game could have won the game. They had marched down to the Chicago 10. I didn't like the play call before the final play. Right. I thought it was kind of stupid. The Giants have the ball at the Bears 14-yard line, and instead of going for the end zone, Daniel Jones throws a 4-yard pass to Deion James coming out of the backfield, and James goes out of bounds at the 10. Well, the problem with that is all you're doing is shrinking the field now. And when you shrink a field at that end of the field, you're making it a little bit easier for the defense to cover your guys. So why is it that the Giants are only giving themselves one shot at the end zone as opposed to taking two?
No, I agree.
It didn't make any sense to me.
When you're that close, you have to go for the end zone. There's no reason not to. I mean, that's the main problem. When you get that close, you go for it. You have to go for it. You just can't say, "Oh, let's see." It's probably better to throw the ball and miss than to get a 4-yard pass.
Well, either try throwing maybe a fade into the corner like Eli used to do, and Eli was never any good at that pass. But maybe you try it, and this way, if you miss, fine. Now you have one more chance to go for it. The only thing you can't do in that situation is throw a pass where the receiver isn't already in the end zone. because if he gets stopped, they were out of timeouts, and then the game is over. But I didn't understand just getting 4 yards. Like, what is 4 yards going to make a difference in that situation? I don't think it does. No. But now you're setting yourself up. It's one play, and then Golden Tate wound up getting called for offensive pass interference on that play anyway. So even if they would have gotten it into the end zone, the game would have been over. So it was just frustrating because the Giants, Barkley gets hurt, and he got hurt in the first half. They took him off. Sterling Shepard had to leave the game, wide receiver with a toe injury. So the Giants were down a couple of significant offensive players, yet the defense was good enough to stop the Bears and Mitch Trubisky. They got a couple of field goals from Graham Gano in the second half, Jones threw a touchdown pass midway or early in the fourth quarter. Actually, Deion Lewis ran for a touchdown, but that was at the end of a 14-play, 95-yard drive. So that was an impressive drive for Daniel Jones. It's good to see the rookie quarterback, putting together that kind of a drive. And that made it 17-10. And then Gano kicked the field goal. Now it's 17-13. And you're watching the game, and it's like, the Giants haven't played great, but they certainly do have a chance to win here. And then end of the game, and that's it didn't happen the way they would have liked for it to happen. You're right.
The other game was good last night. Just as a sidebar, the Seahawks Patriots game.
Yeah, it was a good game. Very good.
Went right down to the last play, and it was like, oh, okay, I thought the last play was wrong. I always think you go wide.
I tend to agree with you on that, but the play. I mean, Cam Newton wound up being when he got flipped over, and he was like 3 yards away from the end zone.
I know.
It was a great play by the Seahawks. And did you hear or did you see Jamal Adams crowing after the game?
I didn't see that. No.
Oh my God, he was like, and he slips in a real subtle dig against the Jets too. He says, "This is my first time beating the Patriots," so I'm pretty fired up.
Yeah, well, it was a pretty damn good game, and it was nice to see the Patriots lose.
Yeah, 5 touchdown passes for Russell Wilson too.
Yeah. So I was, like I said, and you agree. It's, when you're that close to go up the middle, I think it's easy to go on the outside because you
just try to string it out or see what you can do. I mean, especially with someone like Cam Newton, it's not like he's not used to running the ball and doing something creative with it. But maybe you can do a little jump pass into one, whether it's left or right. I mean, if I was the Patriots, I would have run it right, and then let Newton try to freelance or improvise a little bit and see if he can get to the end zone. But for basically trying to ram it up the middle, it's just too many bodies.
Right, and one thing, it is different watching the Patriots this year with Cam Newton because he can run, and Brady never really ran,
No.
So it is a different team, and I wonder how the Patriots are going to react to it as the season goes. Because
I still don't think the Patriots are as good as or will be as good as they have been in the past. I'm looking at them legitimately for like 9-7, maybe 10-6, which still is a good record, but.
It could be in the playoffs.
I think Buffalo is unquestionably a better team than they are. So
right.
I think Buffalo is going to win the AFC East, but I still could see the Patriots getting a wild card.
Yeah, well, maybe they can redo that commercial. Oh my God, Belichick's in. Have you seen
Belichick
that
with the Subway commercial?
Oh my God, it is.
It really is embarrassing.
It's almost like they just said, "Okay, don't say any words, just stand there." And we'll just film you, and maybe we'll have an add word later on. It was,
it's uncomfortable.
It was, and why Belichick out of all the coaches?
Well, I think they wanted somebody like somebody to his reputation is somebody who says very few words. The commercial is very few words. I still don't understand when the guy's sleeves come off of his jacket. I don't understand that part at all. But I don't know that the commercial was actually made to make sense.
Oh my God, it was just horrible. I was just like, it makes you not want to go to get a sandwich. Wow. I was just like, wow, this is really bad. There's no one else to pick. I don't know. I just And I didn't know coaches who are coaching can make commercials. I guess you can.
Sure, why not? Athletes do. Why can't coaches?
Yeah.
Coaches just usually don't have time to do it.
Well, he didn't.
They're usually working.
He looked like he gave about an hour and 15 to
probably
to
guys,
get it done.
Guys, I got to get back to the office.
yeah. I got to go. We'll look at more film. So I don't know, man. Yeah, but it's a bad. Now, one thing I want to say about the NFL, we really haven't seen many problems with COVID-19.
I'm actually stunned by that, to be honest. I thought about that earlier. We are 2 weeks into the season, and we really haven't heard anything about any teams having issues with COVID, and I'm really stunned by that because I thought it was going to be, and it still is obviously very possible that it could decimate either a team or several teams, but. So far, 2 weeks into the season, it's so far so good, and I'm like again, I'm really surprised by that, and that means players are being conscientious is really what it means because they understand that what guys, you can't go out, stay inside, come to practice, get tested, practice, go home, stay home, and that's how this season is going to be. And
right, and right now it's actually all the sports have been pretty, except for baseball, a couple of teams, and they were just being bad players for that night. Let's go out and hang out.
They were stupid. I mean, don't say they're bad guys. They're stupid. That's what they were. They ignored the reality, and it happened. It actually happened with a couple of players who, were outspoken about what they needed to do and what the priorities are supposed to be, and then those guys wind up getting COVID. So but it's been pretty good actually. Otherwise, and I know they had some fans in Kansas City last week, and I'm not sure if there'll be some fans by the end of the year. Maybe there is. They want to be able to have some fans for the playoffs because I know the NFL has had fans. There were fans in Dallas yesterday for that game when the Cowboys. I still don't know how the Cowboys won that game. Why did the Falcons give that game away? But the Cowboys won that game on a last-second field goal. They were down 15 with 5 minutes left, and they won by a point, which was incredible. I'm still just absolutely perplexed as to how that happened. But there were fans there, and I know Major League Baseball has said that they're hoping to get. I don't know if it's going to be 25% or 50%. As far as attendance for the playoffs, but that's something I think is still in discussion. Obviously, everything with COVID is it's pretty much like a next day announcement. It's like, we're in talks for it, and okay, we're going to do it, or either that, or we're in discussions, and no, we can't do it. So, but it all changes so rapidly depending on whatever is the latest information or the latest percentages as far as positive test results. I still understand why baseball has decided to put the playoffs. They're going to implement a bubble system for their playoffs, and they picked California and Texas as the two states. Texas is still not doing well with COVID, and California is pretty much in the same boat. So
New York is the place to be. We have the smallest amount daily.
Right. I don't understand why. I guess I understand weather-wise why those two places were picked, and maybe why not New York. But it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because, like you said, New York would obviously be the safest place, and we have stadiums clearly. Yep. It's not like stadiums would be an issue, but weather-wise it could be an issue. So, I don't. The other thing I don't understand is why are we. Why are the National League teams playing in American League stadiums, and why are the American League teams playing in National League stadiums, and why are the National League teams playing in American League stadiums? I don't understand what the purpose is for that. Like the American League teams will be playing in San Diego and Los Angeles, and the National League teams will be playing in Arlington and Houston. So that I don't understand why. Like why wouldn't you put teams in a familiar setting for their playoff games?
That's a good point. Very good point, actually.
I haven't seen an explanation as to why.
But like I said, it's been pretty good. I mean, it's you really haven't heard anything. I mean, which is fantastic. But at the same time, if you're one thing this has done, the COVID, not in a good way, but it's imagine going to MetLife Stadium to watch the Jets and being forced to pay for the tickets because you bought season tickets. So I think
it's saving local football fans a lot of agita.
Yeah, so maybe they don't complain as much.
You can always just flip the TV off, and you don't have to bother with it. It's out of your mind, it's out of your view, and you can have a nice peaceful Sunday. But if you're at the stadium, chances are you're going to stay. Either that, or you're gonna leave middle of the game. Your ticket is paid for already, so that money is out the window. But what a perfect season for the Jets and Giants to be awful. And, for local fans to be able to save money on their tickets that they don't have to pay for.
Yeah, and I'm sure that just goes to next season. I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they want to keep the money.
I'll throw this in for you, brother. The only bad COVID story that I've heard is that there was a Premier League player who plays for Manchester City who tested positive.
Right.
But that's like the only one. There really hasn't been a lot of issues. Ilkay Gundogan. For Manchester City, which, let's face it, Manchester City has about 20 players to replace this guy because they own everybody because they spend more money than God. But he's like the only person who I've heard of. And the Premier League, they came back last year and they played the rest of the season. And then, they've been playing this season. We're a couple weeks into the season. So, that's the first test that I've heard since the break ended, the COVID break ended. That's the first positive test that I've heard about. So,
right.
There are going to be cases. There's no way, I don't think there's any way to avoid cases, but the fact that there's only been one, it to me is remarkable and also obviously very positive thing.
Yeah, but New York would have been the place. First of all, it's the media capital of the world. Second of all, we've had the best in the fact that we're so low with our cases. It's a very good place to be. So, but hey, maybe there were other reasons, business reasons or something. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, brother, how's Tottenham doing, brother? We're a soccer friendly show. We don't really talk about the Red Bulls and whatever the other team's name is actually called.
NYCFC, brother.
That's right. Yes, of course. So how are those Tottenham Hotspur going?
Funny that you ask, brother. Funny that you ask. Your guy, brother. I know you love him. He's always got a smile on his face. Heung-min Son, 4 goals this weekend in a 5-2 win over Southampton. And you know who had all 4 assists, becoming the first English player to get 4 assists in a Premier League game? That's right, Harry Kane.
Harry Kane? You mean that Harry Kane guy?
Harry Kane had 2 assists all of last season. He had 4 assists in 1 game.
Wow.
On Sunday. And then for good measure, Harry Kane scored the last goal. Because he's Harry Kane.
He's Harry Kane, man.
Exactly. But the biggest news, besides the awesome first win of the season and the 5 goals, the biggest news in the entire world of soccer came a couple days earlier when Tottenham brought Gareth Bale back. They have gotten him on a 1-year loan from Real Madrid, and the deal has another option for a 2nd year, and Gareth Bale is coming back. As I like to say, Gareth Bale has been recalled after his 7-year loan to Real Madrid. Bale actually, right now, he has a knee injury, so he's not going to play for a few weeks. He also obviously will need to get conditioned and get back to full fitness. But if you saw yesterday's match, Harry Kane and Heung-min Son were phenomenal. Harry Kane's throwing passes to Sonny. He's not even looking at him. Just blind passes because he knows where Sonny's going to be. You put Gareth Bale on the right side with those two, with Sonny on the left, Kane in the middle, it's going to be terrorizing. Absolutely terrorizing. And my non-Tottenham friends who they mock me, but you watch and see. Now all we need is for the new manager, Mourinho, who I still don't like, We need him to actually let them play offense and not park the bus and play defense and look for a 1-0 win, because this Tottenham team is they're going to be flying up and down the field. And if he lets them play and actually lets them play offense instead of focusing on defense, this team is going to be a team to reckon with. And I hope that happens.
Well, I always prefer more offensive soccer games or football games,
true.
As they call. I mean, a 1-0 game is not. It's funny. They've said it before. 1-0 baseball game. Oh, that's pretty good. Or a 1-0 hockey game. But for some reason, soccer, a 1-0 game is not enjoyable.
Well,
at least for me.
It can be. It can be. But, obviously you like to see more scoring. You would have loved yesterday. In fact, this weekend there were lots of goals scored in the Premier League. But you would have loved that Tottenham game yesterday. The second half.
I love when they shoot from the 30-yard line mark.
Sonny didn't have to do that yesterday because Harry Kane gave him so many great passes to put him into the box, and then he was lethal with both feet. But
that's good.
We'll see. Tottenham plays again on Tuesday. They have games every couple of days now because the fixture list, as they call it, is so jammed with Premier League and Cups and Europa League and everything else. It's going to be crazy. I hope they're able to stay healthy. Oh, and by the way, brother, your Liverpool guys, they beat Chelsea 2-0. That was a quality result for them.
Good. Liverpool. We love Liverpool.
Yes.
Liverpool.
Figured I'd mention them for you.
Thank you. So, I appreciate it.
What else? Anything else? We didn't really talk about the Islanders, brother.
That's true. We got about a minute. Let's quickly talk about. Well, no, really? We didn't talk about. First of all, the Islanders lost double overtime. Game 6. They could have won it. A matter of fact, when that goal happened and it was behind the net, I said, "Oh, they're going to lose right here." It
was a trash goal. It was a
trash goal, but all goals count. So
but it was a trash goal. The guy really didn't hit it well. It hit off the left post. It slid along the goal line, and it didn't go in until it hit Varlamov's pad and then actually crossed the line. Trash goal. But you know what? Good for Tampa Bay. They're a good team. They're a good team. They're a bunch of goons, but they're a good team.
Yeah, they're in the finals now. So Thomas Greiss is now a free agent. Yeah, or will be a free agent. Also, for as much as the Islanders made the conference finals, the semifinals, the Stanley Cup, however you want to look at it, this team does need some work. Let's talk about that next week, brother. Let's talk about it. They can't do it in a minute. It's not possible. Lou Lamoriello will be busy. Yeah, that's definitely always a good thing.
Definitely. I want Taylor Hall. That's all I'm going to say. I want Taylor Hall. We need Taylor Hall.
Well, who doesn't, Sam? He's the guy you want.
Need him.
So, yeah, I know.
Overpaid,
anyway, brother,
Lou. Do it.
Our show is over. Another show is over. Thank you again. You've been listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. From the press box every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The show will be up on Spreaker as a podcast in a few hours. I am Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is award-winning sports writer and my brother, Tim Leonard. Say goodnight, Tim.
Good night, Tim.